Hey, this is the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on from the Ansonia Chargers, Preston Dziubina, tight end, and a big target for the Ansonia Chargers. And, they're coming off their championship game and rather championship season last year. And quite a number of players have graduated and gone off to play college football or just gone off to do their thing. But one of the big returners is Preston. Man, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome to be able to have an Ansonia Charger be able to come on the podcast. I've obviously had some of the captains last year. I had Kaminsky, I had Romanowski, I had Cassetti, I had McKnight a couple years prior when he was having that great year. And also the wide receiver Palmer as well. When you think about being a Charger, right, the amount of talent that this team has year in and year out, and I've asked these guys this same question. Do you ever pinch yourself because of the amount of talent you're around every year?
With all the talent comes all of us are understanding that no one's above anyone else. We know who has talent, we know who's working hard, and we all have the same dedication to the team. So with all the talent, we still just are focused on we don't care who's going to get the ball. We don't worry about anything else. We just want to win. So with all the talent, that's always pushed aside day one. Even back in January when we start lifting, it's always pushed aside. We don't even look at that as a team.
When you were coming through the ranks, Preston, and obviously when you were in the younger days, I know I was joking with you about how as soon as you guys can learn how to walk, all right, this is how you run certain formations. You guys are, it's basically implemented into your heads. The game of football, how did that find you?
A young age, me and my brother, Christopher Kaminsky,
Yep.
we just always watched it on TV and got into it as a young age. And then it just stuck with us throughout our lives.
So being a part of that, and obviously the game has meant so much to all of you, just like how realistically, I'm a big believer in, certain sports kind of are the, basically the pro sports of the town, right? You think of Waterbury, that's kind of like basketball, for example. Basketball is huge in Waterbury. Is it fair to say that when you're growing up, it's, one way or another, you're going to be around Ansonia football because that's the big sport in the town of Ansonia?
I'd say it's a tradition in Ansonia. You always hear about it. Everyone always has a story to tell you about Ansonia football here in Ansonia.
So when you were kind of coming up, in the younger years, was there, I mean, how many games did you go to when you were younger? Do you even
I
remember?
went to a lot.
Okay.
Now, I didn't really watch all of them. We would always be off to the side playing football while the games were going on, but I went to a lot.
Was there any game in particular that you even remember now, even when you weren't playing on the side with your friends?
I went to so much. All the teams I could tell you. Derby, I always went to the Ansonia Derby once just because I always knew a lot of people from Derby and then obviously Ansonia. So we always went to those games. Those games are always good.
When you were kind of, before you got to Ansonia, I mean, did you kind of prepare yourself for what was going to be when you first stepped foot in the high school?
Yes, because I always knew older kids that were graduating or seniors
Mhm.
that would tell me what to expect, how to prepare myself. So coming in, I knew what to expect. Everyone around, everyone was always good with settling you in. So it
Mhm.
was easy to adapt to everything, but it's a lot to come into.
Who were some of the older players that you mentioned that obviously you were younger, they were older? Who were some of the guys that were kind of helping you when before you even got to the high school, if you could share?
Markel Dobbs, he was big. He would work out me and my brother to help prepare us for high school, especially during the quarantine years.
Mhm.
He helped us work out to prepare ourselves.
That's a pretty good guy to help train you since he was pretty good last time I checked. The numbers don't lie.
He was.
And I mean, obviously, we know about so many of the Dobbses played for Ansonia and had great careers, and it's just one of those things where it's like a family tradition. That's another thing, too. And it's funny because in Ansonia, obviously, we talked about Romanowski, the older one graduated, the younger one's still there. Obviously, the Dobbses. I mean, it's another thing, too, where it's a family, like you mentioned, tradition. Family's a part of that, too, as well, because so many brothers and such are playing the game, even if they're separated by a couple years. You know what I mean?
Yes. My father played, so I definitely got some football from him. I had uncles who played, so I'm always hearing stories. So it's definitely a tradition.
So who is the better one of the family? I'm sure everybody would say themselves, but who usually gets the most like picks, right?
Out of my brother or the entire family?
The entire family, everybody.
My dad.
Really?
Yes.
Now, was he now why is that? I'm curious because I didn't see him play. Why is that?
Well, we always heard stories, especially about him kicking. He always had a great leg. So making 50-yarders in high school, always hearing about that. And also playing D end. The stories we'd hear about him on Thanksgiving, especially
Oh.
in '95, making an overtime sack. Just hearing those stories would always just think that he was the best.
So he was a defensive end and he was kicking 50-yard field goals?
He's made 50-yard. I think in game his farthest could have been a 40 something,
Huh.
but I know he said in practices and everything that he was able to.
I mean, and Sonia's doing that even now because you have guys who are starting. I mean, Paul Palmer, an excellent kicker, very talented at the positions that he plays and the work that he does, and he's being able to be a good kicker. Having a kicker is huge. I mean, prime example, I don't mean to go off script here, but the Holy Cross game, you guys kicked a field goal early in the game. And I remember mentioning to my partner, those 3 points that Ansonia decided to kick and take instead of going for it or whatever the case may have been, could potentially be the reason why they win this game because you took the points, you didn't leave them on the field. What was the final score? 31-28.
That was a big change in the game, especially I believe that drive that we took the field goal. I think we have 2 touchdowns called back.
Correct.
Two, one was a passing touchdown to Paul Palmer too.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't get bummed out or anything. He instead drilled the field goal for us, and that's what won us the game.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why I always say if you have an opportunity, and I say this during broadcast, take the points. Don't give away. If you leave points on the field, you're not just going to get them back. They don't come back. You
He was
know.
very consistent for us, so everyone had 100% trust in him making that field goal too.
And another thing too with Palmer, when I interviewed him, he's a very confident kid, but he seems like he's quiet. But like those are the scariest guys because when they're on the field, they come up in the biggest moments because their blood level is like ice. You know what I mean?
He leads by great example too. He's not going to be the most vocal guy. He's gonna yell it when it's needed. He's gonna talk to you when it's needed. But he
Mhm.
leads by such example. He's always flying around. He's always doing what coach is telling you. If coach tells you to run somewhere, he's always the first one there.
Mhm.
That's the type of guys we need too.
And I think that's kind of the culture of Ansonia. I mean, you don't win the amount of championships and NVL titles without having a complete buy-in. You've known
Yeah.
that for years.
Yes.
So before you got to high school, I know you mentioned about Dobbs. I just want to go to your father quick. Did he talk to you? Because obviously you probably knew to a certain extent the expectations, but did he ever talk to you about not putting too much pressure on you because of obviously when there's a family tradition, everybody expects the sons to kind of follow in footsteps, but everybody has their own path. Did he ever talk to you about that?
Yeah, all the time. He would never expect me to, you know, one up him or to strive just to be better than him. Always play my own game. If I mess up on something, get it back the next play. But I think he's very proud of what I've been doing and just expects me to be great, but he never wants to put pressure on me to where I'm forced to be great.
And I think I think that's what many parents should strive to do is not put pressure on their sons or daughters, depending on whatever sport, regardless of the sport, and just let them enjoy the game, right? Because you have the most fun when you're not putting pressure on yourself, when you're just letting your talent eat.
No, that was a big thing last year, especially that we 100% need to carry on to this year. We never felt pressured. We never got down on ourselves. I mean, it was always just next play, come out 100%. And that's really what won us big games.
And the amount of close games that you guys had last year, I know Nagy was close, Holy Cross, Gilbert Northwestern, Housatonic, and I think Woodland as well. I could be wrong. I think
In
that
the
was
playoff.
a 30-20 game. Yeah. So having those games, and again, every team is different. Some teams can just blow everybody out and it doesn't affect them and they just finish it. I felt like you guys, for the team that you had and what happened the previous year against the Cromwell Portland Co op, with the amount of uh, effort that just in talking with Chris and the rest of the guys, I could tell that there was a fire, and I'm sure you had that too. But playing those close games kind of helped you guys. Obviously, what happened with Bloomfield because of how that game was. But does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. Like coming into Bloomfield when we were down at half,
Yeah.
everyone was saying we've been in this situation before. It didn't phase any of us. We all were still holding our heads high, and that really did help for the turnout of the season.
So when the clock hit zero and you guys were state champions, what was your first reaction? Who did you look at first?
I couldn't believe it. I just took my helmet off, looked at the stands, and just was so excited. I didn't even know what to do. Um, it didn't really hit me until I got back to the locker room at Ansonia. I was excited definitely at the field, but once we got to that locker room, just being with everyone and
Mhm.
just knowing how much hard work we put in for that season, it was just a great feeling. I definitely looked for my brother first, though.
Hey, you have to, right? Blood's thicker than water. Now, did your dad give you a big hug after, or is he not that kind of person?
He told me great job. He knows I still have another year. He was definitely proud of both of us, especially Chris with big 3 rushing touchdowns, but he's just so glad to see a better turnout than the last season.
Oh yeah, especially because obviously what happened with how the score was. We're not going to get into that, but it's awesome to see how the Chargers were able to finish off their season. But now there's a new season. Some players are gone because of graduations, others are now returning. You're one of them. Um, has Coach Brockett or anybody on the staff mentioned or said like, "Hey, you're one of the leaders," or were you already one of those last year?
All of our captains now were definitely leaders last year, and it's also coaches are telling us like now you don't have 3 other captains. You are the captains. You have to lead this team. So all 5 of us have definitely taken that into perspective. And even today, you weren't there obviously, but just see if you were able to see it. All 5 captains were leading the entire time. Just getting everyone where they're supposed to be, and it's definitely a big turnout this year for leading.
How hard is it? Because every season brings new questions, new opportunities, but also a chance to kind of see how things can turn out, right? Um, for this team, right? How hard is it? Because everybody has to be on the same page, but every once in a while you get a couple people that may stray, right? And may get a little bit too full of themselves, like, hey, it was easy, quote unquote. We want a ring, the Ansonia legacy, people are scared of us. They see us come out the bus and they think that, all right, they're gonna lose by 40. How difficult, or is it not difficult, to make sure that people are like thinking as you and a lot of other people, which is we need to take this one play, one team. We can't look ahead because we are not, basically, you have to tell yourselves we're not that good. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, in the beginning of the year, we definitely had some bad days of lifting, and just you could tell people were messing around too much. It wasn't the same environment as the year before, coming off of the big losses and just knowing what we had to do to win.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially the younger guys coming into a team that was just 13-0, and now it's their turn to step up. It only took a few days, just especially with the 5 captains telling everyone what they really have to do to lock in and make sure the season doesn't turn out bad.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had quick and just got that same hunger as the year before, and it's just a great environment to be around.
Now, I feel like if, since guys were joking around or probably maybe not paying attention, I felt like if you said something, they would listen. A, because of the very stoic figure that you are, but also because of the voice. I mean, did you express your displeasure towards some of their stuff?
Yes, definitely did. Had a lot of words out, just get my point straight forward, but it didn't take long.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few times for everyone to really realize like, wow, this is what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. I respect that, and I think that shows signs of obviously a good leader because you see the end game. You want to get another ring. You don't want to have to end things the way it was 2 years ago. You don't want to go through that again.
No, not at all.
I don't blame you on that one. Preston, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been an awesome conversation. As far as the position, right? Obviously, tight end, big target. Don't even need to question the blocking because all you guys do is block. I mean, that's massive. Now, I shouldn't say it's all you do, but it's a big portion of how the Ansonia team does their offense, and it's massive. Blocking is key, as we've seen in college and in the pro sports. Have you been able to work, or have you rather added some routes to your route tree to make your game even that much more lethal?
We just got out of 7-on-7s, so going through that, we were going over more routes and everything. And now, just having our first practice today, we
Mhm.
ran through a few fast plays, just getting the basic plays down today. But
Mhm.
we'll see as further in the season as it goes. But I'm sure we will, because we have a lot of senior guys returning that are going to be getting the ball. We have 3 returning receivers, returning running backs, returning tight ends. So I think we're definitely going to open it up and add some more stuff.
Now, with me broadcasting the games, I'll be seeing a lot of tailbacks. Like we were talking about some of the guys coming back, and potentially also the quarterback as well, a new quarterback. Is there any chance of you being in that hammer formation, getting the rock? Any
In the
chance?
back, oh, I think I'll just be staying at tight end. I think our backfield, especially with the athletes we have back there, I think I'll definitely just be staying at tight end, and they got it back there. Definitely guys that we could trust.
So there's no chance, maybe just one play, just trying to get that one rushing touchdown, just to say you did it.
Probably not, no, unless coach has something planned for our senior night. No.
Hey, if he's watching this when it's posted, he may watch this and be like, you know what, I may have to do that now. You never know. Never know.
Hey,
Is it, in terms of how you craft your game, is there anybody either at the college level or maybe more specifically the pro level? Because I see Seattle Seahawks, so I think of, Jimmy Graham, although I may be off on that. Is there anybody that you kind of try to watch and maybe pick some of their game and add it to yours?
I was a big fan of Jimmy Graham, but I never really watched to see how he plays or what he does back in the day. But now, as growing up, like seeing Travis Kelsey play, I'm a huge Travis Kelsey fan, and seeing what he can do in open space and how he gets himself open, I always am interested to learn and how he does it.
When you watch Kelsey, I mean, are you just in awe sometimes of how he's able? It's kind of like, so I'm a Dallas fan. So, and by the way, Dallas finally was able to beat Seattle a couple years in the playoffs. A little payback from earlier in the 2000s when, remember, I think you were a little bit too young, but Grammatica missed the extra point. Tony Romo had to pick up the ball, and then he got tackled. And
I've seen that plenty of times.
yeah, that was on my birthday. So happy birthday to me, right? So
Yeah,
watching Kelsey was like watching Witten back in the day, right? Because Witten, wherever he was, Mr. Reliable, he was always open. Well, now fast forward to 2023, Kelsey's a more athletic and, let's be honest, a little bit more leaner of Jason Witten. So when you're watching Kelsey, like, what's some of the biggest takeaways you get from him?
some of the biggest takeaways are what he does in open space because he gets routes, he's told what to do, but he doesn't just strictly run them. He makes adjustments. He can read the field to know where he's going to get open. So he
Mm-hmm.
might run a route off by a few yards, and that's what separates him from other tight ends because he just can read the field so well to get himself open. And having that ability to do just could further my game, especially.
I mean, again, when you think about the tight end and what you look for, blocker needs to catch the ball, a little bit of speed, and you've got all that. And then on top of it, and I think a lot of this has to do with the way you were, the way you were, through the system of Ansonia, but also brought up with your father and such, is that you buy into whatever the team tells you to do. And I mean, do you see that? Do you know that?
Yeah, I definitely see that. I see that with the team.
Preston, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. Before I let you go, expectations for yourself, selfishly for 1 second, for yourself. What goals did you set that you want to make sure you achieve this year?
Just to win a state championship. Those are the only goals I have in mind. Whatever I
Only
could do, win a state championship.
that's it. Nothing. You don't want all NVL. You don't care. You just want another ring.
I just want to win another ring. That's all it comes down to in my mind.
How many does your dad have?
I believe they didn't get any because they had to be number one in the state, and I believe they were number two one year. I think they beat Bloomfield. I think they lost to Bloomfield bad and then came back and beat them 7-0. I believe that was could have been 94 or 95.
7-0.
I believe so.
Nobody wanted to score that game, or the defenses were that legit.
Defenses must have been that legit. I believe that's what the final score was.
So basically, you're beating him in the ring totals, right?
Yes, technically, yes.
Now, with your uncles, did they get rings back then or no?
I had one uncle who showed me his. I had one. He was my mom's brother.
Okay.
So I was
And
able to see it. He told me my freshman year, you know, talk to me when you have one of these, and it's nice having one now.
so now you're able to talk to him, right? I will say though, I don't want to say that he's old by any means, but I think your ring's a little bit nicer than his. Just a
It
little.
is a lot nicer.
It's a little bit newer too, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
But hey, Preston, awesome stuff to be able to talk with you. Best of luck this season. I look forward to being able to see the Ansonia Chargers, hopefully either at Ansonia or at some field municipal or up at Woodland, wherever the case may be. I look forward to being able to see the Chargers. It's always fun being able to call the games.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for having me on this.
Always. I'll wrap things up here on the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm going to find them all. Do the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.